Thank you very much, Brenda, and your team at Kettlespace. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk for a little bit. Um, I'm Alex Cohen. I am a business strategy coach, and I work with small businesses, helping them figure out how to find more consistent revenue and more time for the business owner and to grow in the way that they kind of want to grow in a more sustainable way. And I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more and mention anyone who would like to introduce themselves. I don't want to talk the entire hour. So hopefully people are introducing themselves on the in the chat. I will loop back to the chat. And if you have any questions, please put that in the chat as well. I left a bunch of time at the end for Q&A and discussion, and I'm hoping to make this a more group participation kind of part of the presentation. And so I wanted to talk today a little bit about nuts and bolts of business growth and what kind of strategic planning works for your business and how to create a business that will grow and be sustainable. And so a little bit more about me. Before I started working as a business consultant a few years ago, I was actually a litigation attorney for a number of years. And I worked in a bunch of different public sector, private law firm, big global firm, boutique firm. Eventually I went out and I started my own practice. And I was actually really excited about being able to do the work that I wanted to do. And imagine myself spending all of my time with clients in court, advocating, arguing, writing motions, and all of that. And I very quickly realized that starting a law firm is like starting any other business. And there's this entire part of learning how to create a business and how to run it and operate it. And a lot of my time ended up being devoted to creating marketing system. How am I going to find my new clients, or how are they going to find me? How do I create a system where I have time to go to court and not worry about my practice falling apart? And the most fun part is the financial management piece that we're going to talk about a little bit later, how to create projections and a plan where I would have consistent cash flow and not have to worry month to month. And this is really what I find is challenging for my small business clients, that they love doing whatever kind of work it is they do, but either want to spend less time on the business side or don't really know where to get started, or finding themselves feeling like the hamster on the wheel, spinning and spinning and trying to do everything themselves and not having the time to be able to take a step back and figure out what their kind of plan is and how to make things run more smoothly and how to find the time to create more time. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about what I see as the 3 pillars of business growth. And the spoiler for this is that my 3 pillars are marketing, operations, and finances. And I have an approach to those 3 pieces. And then I also wanted to talk about some hacks to create more time, some shortcuts to streamline the work that you're doing and figure out systems to free up possibly hours every week to let you do more of the work that you love doing. So we're going to jump right in to the business foundations. I view this as, the table with 3 legs to stand on, right? And each of those legs are important. If you take any of those legs away, the whole table falls down and everything on it comes tumbling. And so marketing, operations, and finances are all equally important to your business. And some of us like some of this more than other pieces of it. Marketing, if you love writing or doing podcasts or speaking or social media, that can be fun and you spend a lot of time on that and don't worry too much about your operations and finances. It's not going to be a well-balanced business and you're going to spend a lot of your time on one of these pillars and not find yourself growing in the way that you want to grow, and getting frustrated and not knowing why you're working so hard and can't figure out that you're still frustrated that you're not where you want to be. And so we're going to start with marketing. Most people hear marketing and go, okay, great. We're going to learn about SEO. We're going to learn about social media. We're going to learn about branding. And I'm actually going to take a step back and not talk about those 3 things or any of the specific marketing. There's so many different channels out there. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about what marketing really means. And so marketing really is It's promoting and selling your product and services, right? And there are so many different channels that you can do this. But how can you create a strategic marketing plan where you figure out who your clients are and how to reach them? There is so much noise out there, right? No matter what kind of service or product we're looking for, we can jump online, we can Google legal services, we can Google coaching, we can Google graphic design, and there's so many options that pop up on our webs, on the web. We can talk to friends, get recommendations, lots of different ways to find the services that we need. So if we're the business owner providing these services, how do we connect what we're doing and why it's different and has a specific value to the people that you want to be working with? And figuring out that kind of communication piece is really the way I view marketing. Part of it is being able to articulate what it is that you do and how it's different. And part of it is who are the clients you want to work with, right? So if you're a lawyer and you're, let's say, doing corporate litigation, right? Your client can be any business out there. If you're an accountant, same thing. Anyone who has to file taxes could theoretically be your client. But if you're trying to reach everyone, you're going to end up spending more time and spinning your wheels and not necessarily getting the people coming to you that you want. And you'll also end up getting a bunch of people coming to you that may not be the people you want to work with. And so figuring out first how to identify your ideal clients. Who are the clients you really want to focus on? Maybe you are a graphic designer and you work with nonprofits. And those are the clients whose mission you feel aligns with the work that you want to do. And you want to focus on those clients because you can add value specifically to the kind of work that they do. Maybe if you are an accountant, you want to work with specific types of businesses. I only want to work with service-based businesses that focus on a particular kind of social mission, or I want to work with businesses that have an international component because there are rules that apply to them that are hard to navigate. And I know this niche really well, and I can focus on this and really connect with those people who have that particular challenge. A lot of people start by identifying clients based on demographics. And that's definitely one valid way to kind of start your strategic plan. You can figure out people who live in a particular geographic region, a particular age group, gender, whatever that might be. Another approach that I like actually kind of sets the demographic questions to the side and starts thinking about, well, my ideal client, what's the problem that they have? What is their challenge? What is it they're trying to accomplish? And starting to kind of backtrack, like, are they a small business that wants to grow strategically and is very community-based and doesn't necessarily need to be on every social media channel out there? They have this very specific need. How can I address that? Or you might have a client that their biggest challenge is figuring out how to structure their business so that they can have all of their contracts and documents that they need to create specific types of partnerships. And their challenge is understanding the legal requirements and the documents that they need and what kinds of considerations they need for their clients. So there are a lot of different ways to kind of approach who your ideal client is, but starting out with what is their challenge, what is it they're trying to address, and how am I suited to address that? And then figuring out how to connect your messaging to those clients. So now we're taking a step back again to looking at your business mission. Do you have a mission statement? So many people start out with this excitement of their new business, and I love what I do in this particular area that I'm practicing in, and I'm ready to hang out my shingle and start hiring people and working with my clients. And I know the kind of legal practice I have. I can do this type of legal representation for my clients, and I'm just going to go out and start doing it. I think taking that step back and figuring out what your business mission is, like what's the reason that you started your business? What are the problems you're trying to solve? Who is it you're trying to help? And then figuring out how to articulate that mission and that message in a way that resonates with your clients. And having that mission be the underlying messaging through all of your marketing communications. And it doesn't have to be, every social media post that goes out has a big, huge, bold mission statement on top with the flashing lights and song and dance and everything else. It's just sort of more subtle messaging, and it's a way of kind of approaching how you are talking with people out there who could be potential clients. Beyond clients, it's also about figuring out who are partners for your business. Are there people that you can collaborate with that work with the same kinds of clients that you work with? And how do you identify who those partners are? Again, that's stepping back to figuring out your mission. If you are, let's say, you do financial advising, financial management, right? So your clients might be working with a CPA. Maybe they're working with a business attorney. There are other professionals that your clients are also working with. How do you figure out the specific business attorneys or accountants that you want to partner with? Part of that is going back again to your mission and your messaging and looking at what their mission and messaging is. Are they appealing to the same types of clients and communicating the same types of values that you are? Does it resonate for your clients? If you have someone you approach to collaborate with or to refer clients to, and they're marketing in a way that just doesn't land with your clients, they might have wonderful high quality services, but they're never going to be a good match for you. And so sorting out your mission and your messaging and weaving that into your communications is going to be kind of key. And when we talk about some of the hacks for saving time, we're going to sort of circle back to marketing, and I'll talk specifically about social media and how to weave your messaging into social media. The next piece of this is operations. And really, it just entirely comes down to how to create more efficient systems. You might be running a business that has no systems. You're kind of jumping from one project to the next project. Clients are calling you for discovery calls. You're sending out engagement letters, sending out invoices, posting a bit on social media from time to time. You need to hire some people to free up time and become more efficient, but you really just don't have time to figure out how to hire people. On the other end of the spectrum, maybe you have 8 different systems, and those systems aren't integrated. They don't necessarily work together. So your tasks end up being repetitive. You have proposals you're creating either as a Word document or in whatever platform that you're using for that. Then you have invoicing and payment systems that you're using on some entirely other platform, and you're sending out emails. And then maybe you don't really use project management system. You're just kind of doing the projects as they go along. And so one of the things that I like to do is take a step back, carve out some time, and do some workflow mapping and figuring out what is it that I really do in my business? What are all the kinds of, when we talk about the nuts and bolts, what are the pieces of my business? And you can look at starting with your client process, right? So client finds you either through referral or your social media or whatever means they come to you and they set up that discovery call. Well, okay, then what happens next? So you have the discovery call, they need time to think about whether they want to work with you. Do you have a way to follow up with them? Do you reach out within 24 or 48 hours and check in, see if they have any questions, follow up? Or they want to hire you at that first call. Well, do you have proposals set up that are ready to go out? I hear all the time, well, you know what, I can't, I have to create each proposal from scratch because all of my client work is different. Everyone is unique. I do all these huge range of things, and I have to create a new proposal every time. And that takes me 3 hours, and I'm not even sure if they're going to hire me. So is there a way to streamline that system? And I can tell you that there's absolutely ways to create templates that still can be tailored and customized, but that cut down your time just exponentially. But the first step to figuring out where your time is going is to do this little mapping. It could be literally drawing out a chart with this person calls me, then this happens, and then this other thing happens, and here's the next step. It could be just a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whatever is easiest as you start figuring out what you do every time a client comes to you. You can look at production. If you are selling a particular product, how do you manage your supply chain? Do you manage inventory? Do you keep inventory, or do you order as needed? How do you manage the design process? Are you doing this yourself, or are you working with a team? And who is responsible for what piece of this? And do you have team members who are underutilized or doing things that are just duplicating other people's work? And sitting here and actually being able to map out all of the different steps can take a little bit of time initially, but can save hours and hours. It is really a great way to pinpoint where you can start using templates. Are you sending the same email out every time? What is your communications management system? Do you have one? How do you utilize your platform where you can automate things? So if you're sending out the same email weekly to your marketing as part of your marketing strategy, can you create those in advance when you have time? Create a series of emails and marketing messages and schedule them if you're using a CRM tool like MailChimp or Constant Contact or ActiveCampaign, or even if you're just using your Gmail account, can you create all of these messages and then just schedule them to go out over the course of the next, week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, so that this is getting done? Are there other people who need to be doing some of the work that you rely on before your service, for your client can be completed? Are there project management tools that you can use that will streamline this process, where you don't have to reach out, especially now where, really some of us are back in the office, some of us are still working remotely. There are teams working across these hybrid situations anywhere in the country or the world. Are you emailing your team members regularly to figure out what the status is of certain projects? Or can you create a project management tool that could be as simple as Trello or Asana or Monday, where you can map out each client, for example, and all of the steps, and assign each piece of that to someone. And as they complete it, they check it off. And so really, if you're the team manager especially, but really anyone on the team can log right in and just figure out, okay, where are we in the process? Do I need to email the client for this document, or can I get started on this next step? And so really figuring out how to develop and design processes and systems tailored to you. It's going to be a little bit different for everyone. And what kinds of platforms can you use in order to maximize that? Okay, so then the next part of this is, now I know my messaging, I have my mission statement, I'm really excited to start getting that out there. I have partners I want to work with. There can be some great referral sources out there. I'm really ready for my business to grow. And I have systems in place that save me time every week. And I know everything is working well. And I can even take a vacation and break. And I know that my operations are working and the business will still be working. How do I figure out my cash flow? Well, I have to pay for my employees. There are probably platform subscriptions, marketing, all sorts of different things, professionals that you work with that require some kind of cash flow, right? You want to make sure that you're getting your accounts payable and receivables balanced, so that you're not struggling every month. And, again, very easy to fall into financial management is very easy. I just look at my checking account and I see I have X amount, and this is how much I can spend this month and what I can invest in. And I have this big client that just booked me and I'm really excited, and they pay this huge retainer. And now I can pay for all of these fancy marketing things that I've been wanting to do for a while, and spend money on Google ads and do all these wonderful things. And that can work on the short term, but all you're really doing is adjusting or reacting every time you have money coming in and out. If there's a shortfall 1 month, then you start worrying about, well, do I have to cut back? What services do I have to cancel? Do I have to lay off employees? It's stressful, and it's not really a good long-term way to manage. So how do you plan for this? How do you figure out what the expenses are for your business that you absolutely have to plan for, you can't function without. What kind of payment system do you have for your clients? Are you invoicing? Are clients paying retainers up front? And every business is different. And so some methods of invoicing are going to be different and customary for different types of industries. So when I was an attorney, I would have my retainer up front, I would bill hourly. I would be able to book whatever number of hours I worked for the month, and that was my income. And it allowed for a little bit of planning and confidence, knowing that there were some funds covering the work I was doing in my accounts. In other industries, you really can't do that. You bill when the work is done. It might be paid upon receipt. It might be net 30, even as long as net 90. If you're working on government contracts, it can take goodness knows how long until the government agency winds its way to your invoice and gets you paid. And so being able to figure out how to plan that in advance and be prepared for those kinds of ebbs and flows and make the adjustments to kind of even out that cash flow is going to be key. And figuring out the projections, figuring out the services you provide. You're charging certain fee for that. And depending on your capacity, you might be working with clients one at a time. And so you kind of max out with however many clients you can work with in any given, day or week. Or you might be working with groups at a time. You might have team members who are billing at different rates for different types of work. And so being able to sit down and figure out the list of your services or products, what the particular fees are that are comparable to the market, that reflect the value of what you provide, and the number of projects that you can take on at a time if you're service-based. If you're selling a product, you have to account for inventory, you have to account for supply chain. Being able to figure out, especially now, I order something for my business that would have normally taken maybe a week or two to arrive, might now take a month. And if this is something that I need to provide to clients in a certain time, I have to figure out how to build that into my projections. And all of this goes into kind of your roadmap for growth. And while I work with clients on setting up projections and figuring out how to think about financial management strategically, there are amazing professionals that I always recommend clients work with that do just this and can read your profit loss statements, figure out based on certain numbers and certain activities how to adjust for upcoming projects or how to anticipate downturns, all kinds of different things. Working with financial advisors who specialize in your type of business is always a great place to start. Bookkeepers, CPAs, I really rely on in order to be able to make sure that my books say what they're supposed to say. Bookkeepers who can help you figure out how to create your plan, how to keep records, how to categorize things. All of these are going to be useful and a great way to kind of start thinking strategically about financial management and how to create that kind of consistent cash flow, and then how to also start increasing revenue, figuring out what your goals are, both to create a sustainable business and then to create the type of business where if you're the business owner, you don't want to be in a position where you could be working, for another company 9 to 5 and making the same or more than what you're making in your business. So you want to be able to create growth that really sustains your business and your life, your personal lifestyle, and allows you to take time off where you're not working 24/7 just to support the business. And then as you're creating this kind of business growth, how do you figure out how to get off that hamster wheel and how to carve out some time for yourself, how to create more efficient systems, and how to have a business that isn't running you, but that you're operating in a way that that frankly makes you happy. At the end of the day, you started this business because it's a type of work that you love doing and you're good at, and you wanted to sort of make an impact with your clients and help solve whatever the particular problem is, or bring your product and service out into the world, if you aren't able to carve out time for yourself, for your own either business development or to go spend time with your family and kids and friends and take that vacation, it's just going to be frustrating and frankly not sustainable. And so how do you create more time? Well, we talked about the workflow mapping. Spending the time doing the workflow mapping and creating the systems is the quickest and easiest way, although it is definitely a time commitment initially. If you look at it as a longer term investment, it saves you hours and hours each week. You can figure out how to delegate to your team, how to grow, and it just makes a huge difference in your business. And then the next piece of the workflow mapping was automate everything that you can, that's realistic to automate. And you can create templates for any number of different functions. And, again, this will end up saving you time. It'll help you identify how to bring in additional team members, how to delegate some of that work, and then how to just generally create this kind of more efficient, effective business operations that will let you do the work that you set out to do. And then finally, almost everyone loves social media, right? So it's very easy to kind of fall down that rabbit hole. I can hop on LinkedIn and then I go to Instagram and I see what people I follow are up to. And in the back of my mind, I know this is really something that I need to be doing for my business, but there are 26 different platforms out there. And how the heck do I figure out how to do this? Because I feel like I need to be everywhere. Otherwise, how are people going to find me? And I need to be doing this every day. Otherwise, I'm not going to be top of mind, right? And so really, you don't need to be doing that. You don't need to be on everything. And in fact, if you try to be on every platform, you're going to end up spinning your wheels and not reaching the clients that you want to be reaching. And so the idea here really is to figure out maybe 2 or 3 platforms where your ideal clients are. How do you know where they are? Well, you have your top, let's say 5 or 10 clients. Next time you talk to them, reach out and ask them where they get their information when they have a business challenge or when they're just kind of looking around and browsing online. Where do they go? So let's say you pick 2 or 3 platforms. Let's say you want to be on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Well, great. Now I have to create content, and I have to create content every day, every other day for 3 different platforms. And actually you don't, because you can utilize the same content and maybe tweak it a little bit across the different platforms. So Instagram is going to be much more image-based. LinkedIn might be for professionals that you work with that are browsing and looking for content or advice or tips. How can you take this somewhat longer LinkedIn post and utilize that across different platforms, like for Facebook or Instagram? And maybe you're taking that longer post and figuring out the top 3 points and then creating an Instagram post that has those top 3 points as an image, using something like Canva, which if you're not a graphic designer, Canva is fantastic because it's easy. There are templates. You can go in, you can create all of your content using existing templates, change around the images and the color, and you have something that looks completely customized to what you're doing. The other 2 things that I like to do, and I always advise people to do with social media, is don't sit and write something every day. It's just not sustainable. You'll get busy. You have to do client work. You want to, take a break and go out for dinner. You're just not going to have the time. But if you can schedule in, an hour or a couple hours at a time and create kind of batched content. So you write your LinkedIn post. Once that's written, you figure out your top 3 points. You create that for a different platform. Maybe you're writing tips and strategies for something that your client finds challenging. Essentially, you're coming up with maybe 3 to 5 categories max, like these categories or buckets. And these are the types of content that you're creating. So it could be something like, here are resources for my clients. Maybe I'm providing tips based on my field. Maybe I'm announcing new events, workshops, new products or services, or maybe I'm providing kind of quotes that are somewhat related to what my clients are doing. And then you can start creating content in each of these categories, and it just feels more manageable. And then the next piece of that is to create a social media content calendar. And again, this could be something as simple as an Excel spreadsheet that lists the different social media platforms that you use. It lists the 3 to 5, categories or buckets, and then you can put in the dates that you're going to post them and a link to the particular to the post once it's actually up, or you can link it to your document in your Google Drive so that your social media manager or your team member can just go in, take a look at what you plan to post on particular dates and go ahead and post that and manage that for you. And then everyone is on the same page. And again, that eliminates an hour-long meeting to brainstorm and micromanage who's doing what when. There are also lots of templates online that you can find for content calendars if you don't want to sit and create one from scratch. But all of these social media, smarter social media strategy and automations and systems are all intended to be an investment that you create these systems initially, and then it just saves so much time as you go. And so now I have been talking for quite a while, but I was hoping to either have anyone ask questions, or you can go into your chat and ask a question. Just kind of skimming through. What are the kinds of things that maybe you find challenging, or any questions about anything I've presented? And you can feel free to take yourself off mute and jump in.
Karen, I think you had your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I've always had a problem figuring out the best system to do the follow-up in the pipeline. Like that's up until they sign the contract, like from the initial introduction to going through that process and following up, especially after I've sent, the contract out, the proposal out. So what kind of system do you use, or have you seen other people use for very small businesses?
So you can either set up an email chain, essentially, where once you send the contract out, if it doesn't come back, let's say within 24 hours, you send the email out to the client following up, want to confirm that you received it. Do you have any questions? There are going to be certain standard language that you use, and you can create a template for that. And you can create steps for the email that goes out within X amount of time if you haven't heard back. You can also do that through a CRM tool, like, again, MailChimp. I use Constant Contact. Sprout is another one that really lets you set up those kinds of workflows. And Constant Contact actually now, Calendly actually sets up workflows now that you can use to do that kind of thing and follow up. I think part of it is knowing what your sort of standard follow-up procedure is and mapping that out. How many emails are you going to send before they make a decision? Do you have to schedule another call? Is there a triggering event that you found existing clients usually motivates them to sign that contract and come back? So for example, you're creating an annual report, and there are going to be deadlines for that to be published, or maybe it's communication material for their funders or stakeholders. So maybe you build into the communication the particular thing that they need help with, or that's their challenge, and you weave in what you do that makes their life easier. And so, for example, you work with nonprofits and you have many years of experience working with them. The kinds of material that they need to communicate, the information they communicate to their funders, like what their funders want to know or their stakeholders want to know. So maybe one of your follow-up emails has an example of other material that you provided, or outcomes, or timelines, whatever it might be, but you can actually write out those emails in advance and then just create once the client has that first call with you and the contract goes out, you schedule the emails to go out. And so you are able to focus on your work, and you still know that you have the follow-up methodology going out so that you don't get caught up with work you're doing and you kind of forget that a contract's out there and 2 weeks have gone by and you haven't heard from them or had time to follow up. The other thing I would say is that there are also really wonderful platforms out there for proposal and contracts and invoicing. And you can actually schedule the invoice and the messages to go out on those platforms. And again, once you kind of create the proposal template, you might have 3 kinds of services, and maybe there's one paragraph that you end up kind of tailoring and customizing to the particular project. You can schedule that to go out, goes out today. Maybe your reminder invoice goes out in 24 hours. Maybe your invoice goes out once a month or whatever it might be, but you can actually schedule it right into the platform. So,
Thanks.
yeah, one platform that's really great is Keep by Infusionsoft. It's a little bit pricier and there are different kind of tiers of membership, but it has a lot of workflow that you can build into the system. You can create automated email and templates. You can integrate it with other platforms, which you should be looking at whenever you're using multiple platforms. Can they integrate? And it just has a lot of functionality. I can't necessarily see all hands up on my screen. So chat. What do you find is kind of the most challenging thing in your business with, let's say, marketing or operations? Is there something that you find that you can't quite figure out, or you're doing over and over, or maybe you're not sure if it's resonating?
Alexandra, we got a comment on the chat. Jane says, I will be interested in learning more about the automation.
Sure. So automation can be different for different things. It depends on what you would like to automate. So you can automate email chains going out to clients. You can automate marketing material, like newsletters that you can write in advance. And the automation piece might be as simple as just scheduling when it goes out. You can automate any kinds of pieces of your system if it can be automated. I mean, some things are, you need the client contact and you need to be able to do the particular task yourself. But when you start kind of figuring out what the steps are to the work you do, there are ways to build in these automations. So, okay, for example, if you are speech therapist and you work with clients, international clients or business clients, you might have email reminders. You may email them, in advance of appointments. If you're doing one-to-one appointments or group workshops, that, every week you figure out who your appointments are with and you send out email reminders to confirm meetings, for example. Something like that, you don't have to spend the time doing. You can set it up in either your email or you can set it up in your calendar system like Squarespace or Calendly and automate when the messages go out. Another option is maybe you have follow-up with your clients. You send them worksheets or you send them materials. You can set up systems where you have the material kind of ready to go out and you schedule it in advance of your meeting with the client. And it's going to go out. Your meeting with them is on Wednesday morning. You want it out by the end of the day, so you schedule it to go out by 3 p.m. So it could be something as simple as that. It could be other tasks like invoicing. I hate invoicing. It's my least favorite thing to do. And I have to kind of sit and figure out, sometimes if it's a fixed fee, it's a little bit easier, but I can create invoices when the client hires me. I know the invoices are going to go out monthly. I use an online platform that generates invoices. and I schedule them. So it's going to go out on the first of the month, and I don't even have to think about it. I get an email reminder confirming that it went out. So it could be really anything. I think part of it, the key to this is figuring out what your specific work is, your business is, what the pieces of your business are, and what functions can be set up so that you can complete them in advance. So for my online invoice platform, I use something called and.co. It is good for my purposes because I can create proposals and contracts. It has sort of standard language that I can tailor a little bit. I have client files where I can set up different types of engagements with my clients. It links to PayPal and Stripe for invoicing, or in my invoice, I might give like a Zelle or direct ACH option. It sends out invoice themselves on a monthly basis. There are a lot of other platforms to use. You can look at, obviously, pricing, but also look at functionality. You don't have to use QuickBooks to send out the invoicing, but if you find a platform that works, you might want to make sure that it integrates with QuickBooks, because that, again, is another automation that will save you time. So instead of sitting, I hate sitting and entering all of the line items in my QuickBooks every month. And so I link QuickBooks to my bank account and to Stripe, and everything integrates automatically onto QuickBooks. And so periodically I go in and just review that all of the entries are what they're supposed to be, make sure there are no duplications, and then I can send everything out to my bookkeeper or CPA at the end of the year, and it makes everyone's life a lot easier. So I use &Co, which I like. It's relatively low cost. It does have some limitations. I think the only payment systems that are integrated with it are Stripe and PayPal. And if you use something else, then you have to set up something else. If you have a payment processor that you work with, like merchant services, talk to them and figure out what kinds of platforms they'll integrate with and support. So if you're sending out invoices through a payment processing system or merchant services, do they integrate with QuickBooks? So any payments received automatically populate your QuickBooks bookkeeping. Or can you integrate a link to the invoice into your proposal? So these are all kinds of little ways to automate your process so you're not doing 5 things every time you need to send something out. &Co, by the way, was just acquired by Fiverr. So it now links to even more functionality. There's a Honey, I think it's called Honeydew. That's another one that's great for people who have a little bit more design skill. You can customize the look of the invoice and the formatting a little bit more. With me, I just wanted something simple and straightforward, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. It's not really my forte. So I want something that's kind of done for me in terms of the formatting and design. So structuring a new venture, are there any business planning tools you might suggest? If you can be a little bit more specific, I can maybe be a little more helpful. If you're launching a brand new business, you will want all the kind of business formalities, like figuring out, obviously, the type of business.
Let me be more specific. I asked that, Alexandra. Thank you.
Hi, Rick.
I'm not launching a new business. I'm launching a new branch of my existing brand. And so it's related but separate. Okay. So I almost feel like it needs a separate, well, it's within my current mission statement, actually. But the audience is different, is slightly different, and probably where they hang out in social media is going to be slightly different, and the demographics are probably fairly similar, but I'm just not sure where to start with it. Yep. So this resonates with me in particular because I'm in a similar position where I work with small businesses and also work with nonprofits. And so it's the same kind of work, but it is a different audience and different focus. And so you said the exact right thing, that your mission, it's the same mission across both ventures. And I think
you can have two entirely independent businesses, but if you have a mission that really ties those two pieces together, then it's just a question of how do you create messaging that resonates with both. Maybe it's a matter of when you're creating your newsletter, are you targeting some people for one part of the venture and other types of clients for the other piece? And how do you not make yourself nuts trying to?
I almost feel like I need to market this very separately. So, you know, right now I work with couples in conflict, and I work with people who are in high conflict divorces, and I really need to market to those two audiences separately. You know, like my website is primarily set up for couples, and the divorce work, I work more on a referral basis. And this is kind of like, this is more getting to families before they get to the conflict. And if I have all that on the website, it kind of dilutes, it just dilutes the website, you know. So I'm looking at having a separate landing page for this project. I'm looking at creating almost a completely separate business structure for it in some ways, even though it's still going to be me. It's still going to be the same marketing expenses. It's still going to be the same resources that you know, starts that aspect of the business.
Right. I mean, you could certainly create entirely different separate websites and keep them separate. If you are trying to integrate it into one platform and one website, then the question is, can you create that one overarching message, because you're providing this really important conflict resolution service, whether that's then applied to couples trying to work together and kind of, you know, make the marriage work, or whether it's a divorcing couple where you're working with one partner and figuring out whatever their challenges are going to be going forward. There might be one overarching message. And then if someone comes to your website, can they, you know, do they have a way of figuring out, okay, this is who I am, and so this is why I want to work with you? And it might be as simple as having two different tabs on your websites or categories on your website for couples versus, you know, the one person in that divorcing couple. And they can immediately identify themselves on your website and sort of self-select and click that tab and then go to whatever that next piece is. And then just to also streamline your marketing, if you use a platform, a CRM platform, you can categorize and create groups for different people. And so you can manage it all in one site and create separate newsletters or email messages for each category and just tag the group that you want it to go out to. So you're not creating.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now for the couples and the folks who are getting divorced. I use Active Campaign, and I have them tagged separately, and we send them different information.
Nice. And so you can still monitor all the metrics in the same platform and just have it targeted towards specific people so that you're not sending the same, you know, different messages to everyone. And I think a lot of it is just around your brand and figuring out your mission and your branding in a way that's consistent and can apply to both groups.
Thank you.
I hope that helps. Looking to see. I'm curious, you mentioned referral partners. So who else includes working or identifying and working with other professionals as referral partners or collaborating on projects? And what that might look like? And is that something that you've been doing or you've kind of been meaning to do and haven't quite gotten around to yet? So one of the ways that you can become kind of more efficient, you can go after clients, you know, client by client, that I post on social media and I get, you know, X number of likes and comments, and you're really looking at them one by one. The kind of more efficient method or a way to create more sustainable longer term growth is identifying either the person or the profession who can theoretically refer a large number of people to you, because they have clients, the same types of clients you work with, and you can help solve some other problem for those clients. And they look good by being able to refer their clients to you. Or it could be someone who works with kind of an adjacent type of service where you can create co-branded products and services. And so now they're marketing to your clients and you're marketing to their clients, and you have this sort of expanded reach for your client base that you're working with. And especially if you're not working specifically one-to-one, maybe you're selling products or services to a larger number of people, that can really be an easy way to create that next level exponential growth and reach a whole other audience that is looking for the same kind of, having same kinds of challenges that you want to address. I think we just have time for maybe one more question. Yes, absolutely. And I'll be sending out a thank you email to everyone for attending at some point soon. No problem. That's what chat's for. Chat is wonderful. I think now we're all kind of used to the functionality of Zoom. Thank you. Well, then I guess I'll just wrap up, and I want to thank everyone so much for being here today. And thank you again, Brenda. And I really appreciate Kettle Space and giving me this time today over our morning coffee.
Yes, thank you, Alexandra. I will be sending the recording to everyone by the end of week. So stay tuned if you guys want to share it or like rewatch. You'll be getting it in your email. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you. Enjoy your week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.